Morning, everyone, and welcome to Morning Market Movers, where we do live analysis for day trading, take a look at hot spots in the markets for the day. My name is Todd Rich. I am with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. And really, what are we going to be looking at today? Today, we're just going to be looking pretty much at the same thing we were talking about yesterday. The news, what everyone's looking at, what is moving markets, it really is all around what's going on in Europe. So we're going to take a look at oil, and then we're going to be looking at equities. We've got the Ukraine-Russian crisis continuing to escalate. I know the Ukraine just declared a state of emergency. I think we're going to probably be seeing real war, unfortunately, soon, which this could be the biggest war that Europe has seen 80 years. I mean, it's not pretty. And Ukraine is an important, I mean, it's the breadbasket of Europe. I mean, it's where a lot of the food is grown. Clearly, it's also a lot of energy and other resources. So that's not pretty, but I mean, we saw the sell off yesterday, severe in the markets. We did see the markets come back a bit. And then today, we're actually seeing the markets in the green, looking to take back a good chunk of what they gave up yesterday. But we're going to look at technical levels in the equities. We'll take a look at technical levels in energies. Before we jump over there, I do need to share this disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk. And this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your education purposes. Yeah, it's interesting that we're on the cusp of the precipice of actual war. We've seen that run up in oil. Since yesterday, it's actually come back some. We're seeing it bounce off of quote lows. I'm putting lows because it's still above $90 a barrel. But yeah, we'll jump into it. Let me and I know that there's some other insights, Brian and Kip. Look, we got Kip.
Yeah, Kip's here today too, guys.
I could just catch. You got to hold him up. We
Yeah,
can barely see him. Oh,
he's here. He's here.
oh man, look at that head of hair he's
Yeah,
got.
he unfortunately gave mom a very, very difficult time. Yeah, we have one that's sick. One that's sick with a 102 fever, and then this one was up all night. So mom's a hurting camper today. So yeah,
Meanwhile,
it's one of those
he's
days.
already he's got all that hair, but he's got male pattern baldness.
Oh yeah,
It's
yeah. Well,
going
compared to the girl, he's got no hair. So I mean, the girl was like a lion coming out. Like all her ultrasounds, they're like, "Oh, do you know your baby has hair?" We're like, "Yeah, we've seen it." Everybody keeps mentioning it. It's funny. The ultrasound was blurred because it's like hair everywhere. So,
hair.
yep.
That's too funny. Too funny. All right. Well, let's take a quick peek at what we got going
Yep.
on, and we'll just jump in quickly to technical levels. I mean,
Hmm.
really, it's just equities and energies.
Yeah, I mean,
That's the story
Australia
of the
was the
day.
only one that really had any movement. There was a lot of talk last night about what they're doing. New Zealand obviously raised up to 1%. So you're seeing that across the board. Actually, in some of like the quote hottest stories out there that talks about how Russia's moving on Ukraine. FX is rather muted, and then Aussie and New Zealand rebounded. So that's really where all the movement in the overnight has been based. There's a little bit of dollar movement. The pound is actually rocketing higher today, and again, the reason why is because there's some talking about inflation and the two phases of inflation in the UK about 3 hours ago. So we knew that that was going to be a big deal with this monetary policy report. Again, they may be raising. They did. Johnson did make some statements a little while ago. This is his most recent one, talking about that Russian banks and corporations are no longer able to clear in the pound in the US. So the UK has been, I would say, I mean, yesterday the sanctions, the UK put on 5 major corporations and individuals. The United States only did 3. I'm not sure why we're having a weaker response, but the UK is being extremely aggressive with it. And now they can no longer clear through those banks. And again, there is actually a large, yesterday we were talking, there is actually a large Russian population, I guess, in the UK, or there's Russian, I guess that's a vacation spot or something. Um, I didn't know anything about this until yesterday. They were talking about, yeah, there's actually a large Russian population. They go there, they spend money there. That basically they're halting all that, basically halting all those, all that type of, commerce. Like, oh, they'll come in and pay, cash for a watch. Okay. But they can no longer clear in pounds. So this is getting important. This came out about an hour and a half ago. I'm actually waiting, and I won't be surprised. And I make a lot of these comments a lot of times, that people are like, "How'd you know that was going to happen?" And they're just educated guesses. This is purely an educational guess. But with Russia now forming, signing agreements and recognizing things like that, I'm waiting for the UK actually to sign some type of mutual protection agreement with the UK, or I'm sorry, with
Right.
Ukraine. The reason why is that they've been very, very kind of I hate to say aggressive, but they've been very protective of kind of that scenario. And again, their sanctions are harder than what the United States is. Their tone has been stronger than the United States. If you listen to Biden's speech yesterday, it was definitely a teleprompter read. I thought it could have been a much better, and it was kind of like, oh, we can do more if we want to. It's like, well, does he have to destroy all of the Ukraine before we're going to do something? I'm kind of confused. Um,
There's
from
there's
from
a,
this,
there's a method to the madness somewhere.
or
And
it's just
I'm pretty
madness. I don't know.
confident I'm pretty confident it's coordinated between who's doing what, and there's probably a reason why. And the UK is obviously
Well, Boris and Biden are not
part of.
necessarily BFFs. Just they're kind of coming from two sides of the aisle. That's why I'm thinking that this may be the UK. And again, the UK after leaving, after Brexit and everything else, the UK is trying to establish itself as a dominant force again. Which again,
Yeah,
they are definitely exposed much more than the United States is. So
right.
it makes sense. And then the other big headline that comes from this whole kind of scenario, because everything is really wrapped into this. There's really nothing today. Is Germany making this statement about an hour and 3 minutes ago?
Yeah, I like this one.
Right here, talking about how they could probably do without it. It's a tall order, but again, could they do it? Sure, sure. I mean, the situation and why Germany's been kind of at the forefront of this Nord Stream 2 pipeline is basically because they're trying to close down their last three nuclear plants and as well as get rid of coal. Now,
Cool.
there
Yep.
are other options out there, renewables, but that they could put in. May it cost, could it cost more money? Sure. But one of the big questions and the big kind of gripes about this pipeline from Russia to Germany has always been this is going to make them reliant upon Russia. Okay.
Yep.
This morning on CNBC, they had General Petraeus on. Everybody remembers him, right? Very, very famous guy. He talked about how, all the troops there, he's like, I know something about invasion forces. Yes, they're absolutely
They're
going to
going
do
in.
it. And he goes, it's great that we put sanctions on quick. There's actually a lot more we can do with sanctions. And really, the sanctions are not, and this is where I was kind of lost on it. The sanctions are not meant to stop him from invading the Ukraine. Militarily, is the only way we would stop them. It's to stop Putin from flexing power in the future, not from right now, which I thought was interesting. It's kind of like, wow, you have a nation that's asking for help, asking for defense, asking for protection, and all we're going to do is stop them from flexing on the next country. That's interesting.
Although
So
although the president of the Ukraine was very clear that they'll fight their own war, that they're not
yeah,
asking
yeah,
us, right?
yeah. Petraeus
And
also
which
said
is,
that even with the reserve, they have 200,000 reserves. He said, but
yeah,
just the technology there, he's like, they're going to get stomped on. And that's just the
it's
reality
going to
of the
be
situation.
and this is a European war, and this is going to go on between the Ukraine and Russia, and
Mhm.
what'll end up happening is it's going to be really bad for the Ukraine, but it's also going to be really bad for Russia, and then the world's going to see to it that Russia, if they get any type of victory out of it, it'll end up being a Pyrrhic victory. It'll cost them so much that it could change the sphere, the influence inside Russia. I mean, there's always a long game somewhere in politics.
Mhm.
So I'm always
Yeah, I
kind of
mean,
curious where that is.
yeah, I mean, he mentioned that it was great at the UN Security Council meetings. He said that the great thing is I've never seen since the Cold War ended, I haven't seen countries work together like this. So it's been an empowering
And there's
kind of
that. Yeah.
it's bringing people together again against a common foe. He said that China made some comments about it's absolutely important to respect sovereign boundaries, which is kind of interesting because again the whole Taiwan situation. I mean, they're claiming Taiwan even though Taiwan is different. It's kind of the same. I think that's what they're kind of. It was a weird statement from China because China is kind of playing both sides right now. But again, having somebody like that in his position, making the comments that he did, it's definitely, really the only way that we can hurt. Nothing that we're doing right now is going to hurt Russia. They cannot borrow money, but that's okay. They don't need to borrow money because they're making so much money off of oil right now. They did mention too that the oil situation is very interesting. Iran can't pick up the full amount of oil that Russia is producing right now. Again, Putin knows that. He's not stupid. He absolutely knows how much money with the inflated prices. He said the demand right now is just so high. Again, everybody coming back online from COVID, the demand for more is there. Um, the United States is actually driving that. So it's funny. We're not going to loan them money, but we're going to drive the oil prices higher and higher and higher,
Yeah.
and Russia is going
And
to
buy their
benefit from it.
oil.
So
Yeah, so they could keep going to war. It is
yeah,
kind of crazy. I think the question is, what is Russia really looking for, and what's their long game? And I don't see them
Russ is,
achieving.
and I think it's pretty clear at this point. Russ is just trying to basically assert its prior dominance. It's trying to go back to its Cold War. Petraeus made it kind of he was like, yeah, this is like the make Russia great again, and that's what they're trying to do. Is they're trying to establish their territories again that they all lost. And again, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, at this point, it's not just Putin driving this. I mean, the public has voted for it, so they want to become the nation that they were before the power. They don't like being a diminished kind of second, third. I mean, in reality, they're probably, take the nuclear weapons out. They're like a third-rate country at this point, right?
Well, they really don't have anything. They don't have anything other than gas.
They have natural resources. I mean, yeah. I mean, they have oil. They have natural gas. They obviously have timber. They have a lot of resources there. They have a lot of territory, but not a lot of it is used. So, I mean, again, as far as natural resources go, they do. And they border China. So, I mean, they have a close relationship. Again, it's very kind of like the anti-U.S. alliance there. But at the end of the day, oil is kind of what's the driving factor in this. It's okay to, the heightened tensions have really driven oil higher than what they need to do. The United States is now relying upon other people for oil again. We had our independence for a while. But $92 makes them, again, being one of the largest exporters of oil, this makes them a ton of money. So, again, until we really put sanctions that start halting the amount of oil they can send out, their cash cow is still producing cash for them. So, we can maybe halt them in the future, but again, remember a lot of things that really in life and anything, right? You take 2 steps forward, you take 1 step back. You take 2 steps forward, and the market's the same way, right? Impulse, correction, impulse, correction. Taking over the Ukraine is an impulsive move. No one has said we will take military action to protect the Ukraine. He takes it over. He can bear the brunt of the sanctions, whatever they put on there. They're not going to last forever. Right, and they say, "Oh, it will hurt him in the future."
We'll see what the whole world does to put the screws to him. I just think they're just starting, and the thing is, they're having to go it entirely alone. They've got no support from anyone else, and I don't know about Russia versus the world. I might bet on the world.
I'm in disagreement with that one, and I wholeheartedly disagree. It's not Russia versus the world. It's Russia and China. And China will, in my opinion, again, China will easily say, "Yep, we'll take your cheaper gas."
They'll buy their gas. I don't see China going to war and launching weapons and sending.
It's bad business. China's not going to launch, and that's the thing. I don't think there will ever be shots fired. I think everybody is just focused on sanctions, and I think he's willing to take the sanctions to take the territory over to start reestablishing a larger Russia, and then he'll look forward. And again, remember that the worst sanctions are coming from the United States.
Well, there will be shots fired because eventually
it won't matter. China's going to take over the United States. So
eventually, Ukraine they'll fight back. They've reached their borders. They will fight. I mean, Ukraine will fight. So there's going to be shots fired unless.
Oh, there will be. I agree. I think there will be, but the general consensus from every single person out there is the Ukraine doesn't stand a chance militarily against Russia, which I agree. And again.
And then if they stomp on all those people and they start slaughtering tens or hundreds of thousands of people, I think the world will react differently.
If you pick up arms, you have to be prepared to pay costs.
Well, I also think the world will react differently to Russia. I mean, again, it's all about perception and what are people prepared to put up with. They did not do that in the Crimea, but if they're going to do that here, I think we'll see how it ultimately plays out. So there's a game of politics going on that I'm not terribly versed in. But anyhow, let's take a look at these technical levels. We haven't even gotten into
oil's responses is up 0.3%. It's not really moving right now. Again, why? Because there was no talk of sanctions, and the only talk that we have is the talk of Iranian oil being brought on. When the speech happened yesterday, we were really sitting in the exact same price of where we are right now. It was supposed to be at 1 o'clock. It happened closer to like 2:30, 3 o'clock. We're at the exact same spot. Zero movement. Kind of took a little drop down, little drop back up again. I still think the 95 and then the 89.50 are the two top and down kind of borders. We do have to watch the level here around 93.45. Reason why is because, again, the last time price was there, it did take a very, very sharp draw. That was at the open yesterday. But besides that, it's just more or less kind of going sideways. And it's the last time we've really had any really, really strong movement up or down. Remember, it is Wednesday, but there's no oil inventory report today. It is tomorrow. I don't think they've put a forecast on there yet.
The API numbers are later today, aren't they?
Yeah. It's showed to be a -1 down draw, not anything real big. I think this is just, last time it was supposed to be down more and it came in positive. This time it's supposed to be kind of the middle ground. It's like, you know what, we'll take the 1 and the 2 and we'll just put it at -1. So, I don't know.
Definitely supply demand. We'll see. We know demand is up. We know supply is challenged. So
yeah,
expect volatility in oil.
Yeah, I would say, but that's probably more of a tomorrow type thing.
Yep.
There's so many things that happen from now. I mean, the API oil report will be one mover. The UK session responding to the oil API report would be another thing. But really, at the end of the day, or the morning of the day, the beginning of the day, or whatever you want to talk about it, any talk about limiting the export of oil, that would trump anything in the API report.
Oh
So
yeah, it just
um,
blow oil through the roof.
and that's the problem. That's the only way you're going to hurt Russia in this situation. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and again, it's not just the United States. There's many other people. The UK could say, hey, we're banning all imports of Russian oil. They know where it's coming from. They can
Yeah.
turn all the tankers away. So that would definitely affect some of the supply in this. So, and again, remember, Russia's also, I'm sorry, the European Union has already said, we voted unanimously. We know that any type of sanctions we take could hurt all of us, and we're okay. We're willing to take that. That could be
Yeah.
exactly where they turn it away from. Now, again,
Right.
it is kind of winter-ish, right? It's winter-ish, so they can't just be like, you know what, that's it. We want nothing. And again, they know that. So
At some point too, I mean, let's face it, the U.S. We fire up, the frackers will fire up. I mean, oil. I mean, right now it's unstable. I mean, who knows if the price is going to stay here? But if it shoots up to $100 a barrel, the fracking companies will start getting back, going back online.
but we're above we're above
and
the
even the
fracking number.
Canadian oil sands, everything goes back on the table when oil comes up, gets that high.
Yeah, and we have a completed pipeline too. So we have a completed
That's
pipeline
funny.
we're not using. Yeah, we cost Canada $1 billion and thousands
Hey, we can
of
just turn
jobs.
it on.
Yeah, it's there, but we didn't want it because war is better. So
I love it.
yeah, so oil is one.
with this
Natural
one.
gas is responding slightly up. It's about, it's again kind of in that same level. It's up. Gold, zero movement. Gold is again, we're just kind of fluctuating back and forth in that same level, right around the 1900 mark. I mean, it's up 0.1, so it's nothing. The Aussie is the only thing moving. Again, we talked about the Aussie. You can see yesterday, really, I guess from this morning on, Aussies had a nice little rally up, and we know based off of New Zealand's data, we knew that they were probably going to have some type of a push, and we were mentioning, hey, listen, you got to get long Aussie, got to get long Aussie. We did have that one level, and it's nice. This got front run, hit, pulled back down, hit it again, base down there. So again, it drove and ate up all those, all the orders here. Finally, the one, I mean, you could really, we're even removing these. Yeah, there was your one, there was your two, there was your three, there was your four hit with a base. You're like, it's breaking. And then bam, it broke, and now it's pushing up to that 83 and 6. So there will be some profit taking in this. And again, later on today, once the market opens, I do think yen strength will probably pour back into it. So there may be a short opportunity in the Aussie yen. Like I said, this was a great level. It worked. It held. Whether or not you got into it or not, again, after 4 hits, you know that there's no way you should be short this position. And again, we were talking about getting long. So that one should be moving. But besides that, I would say most of the currency market is locked in, minus the dollar CAD. The CAD is obviously dropping, but the CAD is also, remember, this is kind of more of a proxy-based position. The CAD strength is coming. We saw CAD data come out. We know that CAD is at the stage where they're probably going to be the next person to raise. Again, with oil being the way that it is, people are kind of positioning oil that same way, where it's kind of like, yeah, it's probably coming. It's probably coming. So it's there. And again, with the dollar weakness, it was kind of a 1-2 whammy on that one. So we've seen dollar weakness pretty much across the board. Aussie dollar, even the dollar pound, or I'm sorry, the dollar yen, it's down 0.04, so barely any movement.
Nothing.
But again, it's still on the red side. But I do think yen strength will come in this morning, and we should see some of these things start to roll. And besides that, that's really it. There's just not a lot out there. The indices are all up and retracing, but they're all kind of really ugly. And again, yesterday was big down, right? And then all of a sudden the speech came in, and it was kind of like, okay, you're not going to do anything, all right? And we just kind of spiked up, and then we've just held since that time. So ES right now, I mean, we really don't need fibs at this point, because I mean, we've put new trends in. Right? We had an uptrend, and then we put kind of a downtrend back in, blowing levels out, and now it's just stabilized. So I would say kind of removing fibs just to kind of keep things as simple as possible. Minus the basing that we're at right now, we still have 43.81 and 42.60 on the bottom. So I mean, again, but kind of 3 front runs, and we're smack down the middle. So there's really nothing has happened. They didn't fully invade yesterday. If you look at the situation from yesterday to today, nothing's really changed.
There is one other thing that did, and I caught this, and you're gonna laugh. I caught this one. You and I, we didn't talk about this earlier. You're gonna laugh. But we're talking about the other backdrop is the inflation, and what's the Fed going to do? And early this morning, Bostic, what did he say? Well, the fear of war. We might have to be a little less aggressive with our. You're shaking your head.
Yeah, and
So
this is why there will be this is why the administration and this is all the unhappy people out there. Do
yeah.
nothing and there will absolutely be a shift back from one political party that's
So
in power right now to
so
another in November.
some of the
It's
support in the
easy.
markets, some of the support in the markets could be that the half might be in question, and they might be looking just to do 25 basis points, which
Yeah.
it's a step. But and then they've been talking about doing 7 of those over the course of the year, or upwards of 9. Does that make sense, just to kind of slowly tear the band-aid off over a long period of time, or do you front load it, which is what a lot of people are expecting? That front
Mhm.
loading is now on the table, where it was sort of expected that they were going to go ahead and throw in that half a basis point, I mean 50 basis
Yeah.
points, a half a percent increase. That might now be a little bit in question. Um, Not that I'm in agreement with that. I'm in agreement with you got to front load it a little bit. I thought the 50 basis points to start. It's going from nothing to to 50
Which
is
is
still
nothing.
nothing.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
but we'll see. We will see. But that could also be helping the markets this morning.
Yeah, and probably some, and that was kind of what we were waiting for as far as kind of what the excuses are going to be for it.
Yeah.
You can see that NQ, we're just hovering on 14,000, kind of the same thing. We talked about this level at 13,723. You can see at the speech, it did come down and grab that level. We talked yesterday about how there was a nice push off of that level. That's actually what it grabbed during the Biden speech. It came down and touched it, and then kind of popped up. And then where its pop was 14,000. We're stuck there at the same spot. So I would say that 14,414 and 13,723. That was a tested level. So hopefully you guys are able to get along from that. YM kind of did the same thing. We were looking at a level potentially, ended up driving much lower for that one. So unfortunately at the open, it was a good hit and then pop and then immediately came back at 10:30 and kind of based, and it was not a great secondary trade. The first one was kind of the way to take it. After that, again, I'll run fibs from top to bottom on this one. You guys can see that, again, we kind of blew through the 50, pulled back, and then we kind of rode the 50, we kind of pulled up, back down again, and we're just kind of fluctuating sideways. So there's no real trend. It is up from where we were yesterday, but can you say that we really have some type of, main big driving force? Not really, not at all. I mean, it's more sideways, and it was that initial pop, and kind of same thing. Russell, again, floating in between the same areas, the same top and bottom we kind of put in yesterday, which were strong buyers and sellers. Neither of them were able to get hit. We got really close when Biden spoke. It did drive down, and we got super close to the 1964. But the buyers that kind of launched the last kind of front run are the ones that stepped in, and then here was a spike, and we're at the exact same spot. So really, the indices, although all up, I wouldn't
Are
say that
hovering in
any
the
of them are
middle.
great.
Yeah.
Again, war, it's all going to be about these headlines, which is one of those things that is not predictable. And you can see based off of just even the data we got. I mean, literally, we spiked up and then no, just kidding, and we pulled all the way back down again. And it's really that was just kind of a rubber band. And it's funny when you talk about kind of like that smoothing effect, that reversion to the mean. Obviously, we blew a top band, we blew a bottom band, and then what did it do? It just rode along the center band there and kind of stayed with the averages. So, you know, the reality is nobody really knows what the next comment's going to be or what the next move is going to be. Inflation is still here. Taking the Bostic stance is absolutely ridiculous. And again, yeah,
I
we're
didn't
going to
get
do.
your
We
all
can
upset
do
this
10. We can do
morning.
10 of them, but we're already at 40-year highs.
Yeah.
If we do 10 of, why would we need to do 7 of them or 10 of them? Oh, to get inflation under control. I'm like, so
Yeah,
that basically means that you were saying you're going to allow inflation to continue to move for the next 2 years until it's controlled, and get gas in California is already $6.21. And Biden has made a comment now about we need to make sure that people
Now
can
that
purchase
was
gas and stuff.
interesting. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, he
that
actually called that out. Yeah,
yeah.
so
Well, yeah, he needs to look at himself and figure out why it's it's
yeah.
$30 higher than it should be right now, and I'm sure he's regretting that decision at this point. Again, hindsight's 2020, but that's what
Yeah,
we got.
we're dumping on Bostic this morning. We
Yeah.
got to blame somebody. All right, listen, we went long today. Lots of banter and chit chat about global politics and Fed policy, but that's really kind of where the markets are right now. Is everything we're kind of hovering in no man's land. Markets down yesterday, they're coming back some today. but we're in this middle area, this middle range, and we're waiting for the headline that's going to move the markets or the statement that's going to move the markets. So with that, Nadex products certainly do make a lot of sense if you're looking for this price action because of the very nature of the products, whether they're knockouts or whether they're binary options or even call spreads. Defined risk. You know what you're getting into before you enter that trade, so there are no surprises. So if there is some strange anomaly, you're protected. You are absolutely protected. So with that, any questions for Nadex, please email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Any questions, please email us there. Brian and I are also accessible. Brian, if you got questions, please email them. support@keeptradingsimple.com. I know people do often reach out to him. Very accessible. Brian answers his emails. I answer mine as well. And that really kind of covers it for today. We definitely went long. Let's see what's going to happen. We will be back in the world as we wait for the headlines to come across. Brian and I'll be back tomorrow morning. Until then, stay safe, stay warm, and good luck in the markets, everyone.